am joined today by Shannon Polly, one of our awesome coaches on the SVC team. And Shannon, I already shared what we're doing, but I'm going to share again in case we have some new listeners to this segment. We are doing what's in the coach's toolbox. And what I mean by that is, as coaches, we're constantly helping our clients kind of just navigate their own well-being in the larger context of trying to take care of everybody else, navigating uncertain times, stressful times, constantly changing times. So we're sharing tools and things they can hopefully do to keep that level of calm or that peaceful feeling as best as they possibly can. And then I got to thinking, okay, coaches are totally human too. And so of all these millions of tools that you have, what is your go-to tool when life feels a little uncontrollable?
I have so many tools, and we talked about this beforehand. I was like, I can't pick just one. So I'm going to share a poo-poo platter of artistic tools.
Love
And
it.
what I'm working on at the moment is I am learning to knit.
Ah,
I'm not great at it yet, but I
that's
have some
beautiful.
mom friends who were kind enough to share some learnings. These are very small needles, by the way. Just so you know, I realized like, woo, I started with like really fat ones and I was like, I'm
Yeah.
really good at this. And then I got to small ones. But I have a variety of things. So I can't do this all the time because if I'm looking down, people don't think I'm fully present in a call. So usually it's before a call. I also have been doing some watercolors and I'm terrible at it.
Oh.
I'm not good at it. But my husband got me these watercolor things where basically
Ah,
it like gives you the outline on the back. It tells you like what colors to use
oh, I
and
love
then when you
it.
do it, it makes you feel like, ooh, look how professional I am. So I stole my kids' watercolors and I've been using those. And I also feel
I,
like, one of my strengths is kindness and I like to give things away. So I'm creating something that both centers me, but then I can, give it away to someone, send a note on one of my watercolors and use it as a card or something.
I love that. So, of course, I've got a few questions. And that
Okay.
makes me actually think of Robert B. Swastiner, who we both know.
Yeah.
Robert does, I'd call them doodles. They are not doodles. They are so incredibly beautiful and precise drawings. I don't know if you've seen them, but then he'll
No.
do the same where he'll send them. He sent me his book with one drawing that he did that is over the
Wow.
top awesome. And that's one of the things that he does that kind of
Wow.
keeps him grounded. So one of my questions on that is, while you're knitting, while you're drawing or painting, does your mind not wander? Like sometimes I think to get to calm, you kind of want something that gets your mind off of something. Does that distract you enough that it helps you lose focus on the things you don't want to be focusing on?
The painting definitely does. The painting definitely like I don't need music. I don't need a TV show. I can just be like zen and focus because I realize if I try to do it too quickly, that's the other thing, it slows me down. If I try to do it too
Yeah.
quickly, then I mess it up and then I'm like, "Ah, I got to fix it." Same thing with the knitting. I was traveling for work and I was in Amsterdam and I was like, I'm gonna knit on this bus. And then I made a big mistake. I had to like undo 4 rows of it, which was very annoying. So I definitely find that the painting does. And I also it echoes something that we learned in my graduate coaching program at Georgetown, where they asked us to learn something new
Hmm.
because we're asking our coaching clients to do something very new.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's old hat for us to say, like, get in touch with your body and where are you feeling that emotion? But for them, it's difficult. And so it
Yeah.
does remind me that, you know, doing new things is a challenge and there's a learning curve and it helps me build my empathy.
Yeah. No, I really like that. Have I've flirted with picking up a guitar, which we
Ooh.
have a guitar that has sat in our living room for quite some time, and I just like the look of it there, so I leave it there, and then I fantasize about taking lessons for that exact purpose, is to get myself to do something that is so out of my element that would be
Yeah.
hard and that I need to just use a different piece of my brain and also have the cultivate that patience.
Yeah, yeah. I too have a guitar, or my husband's guitar, which he bought many, many years ago, and, it feels like a heavy lift, to, like, I have to get a teacher and
Yeah,
practice, but these are sort of, like, artistic adjacent, and
yeah.
I guess the other thing is, like, I can feel myself slowly getting a little bit better at it. Like, the first scarf I made was horrible, it had, like, holes in it, and, like, it started this wide and then got, like, this wide as I added too many, loops on it, but now I feel like I'm improving, and so
Oh,
there's some satisfaction there.
I love
But
that. It
maybe
gives
you and I, we could, like, play guitar together. We could have it be
Oh,
a what's
I
possible,
oh,
what have we learned
I
session.
love it. We could get a virtual teacher and the 2 of
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
we might do that. So, listeners,
Yeah,
we might be playing some guitar for you in the future.
yeah.
One thing I'm really loving about this episode too, which I will do a quick is it an infomercial, something like that,
Yeah.
is that we are now on YouTube, which
Oh.
allows our listeners to actually watch. So if you are someone who has always purely listened to the podcast, hop on YouTube so you can get to see Shannon's creations. So you get the visual effect. So I want to ask you, because you obviously know the science behind, all these different things that can help us cultivate well-being.
Mm.
Can you share a little bit about the science of just creativity and what that can open up for us?
Well, I think for me, the knitting and the painting gets me in flow. And we know that, Csikszentmihalyi says it has to have like a balance between your skill and the challenge. And so it's sort of like something that I can ratchet up the skill a little bit. I started to try to make one of the red hats that people are making in Minnesota, and the skill was too high for me. I had to start over like 4 times, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna dial back the skill. Dial it back on the difficulty level. So I think that flow is one of those things that people are missing the most. We were talking about
Mm,
it earlier on a
yep.
call today on, like, we get pinged, we get, different things are trying to get our attention, and it feels like Herculean to try to really be present with one thing. So, and for some reason, I know the benefits of meditation. I still do meditate. And for me, having like an output, I can still tap in a little bit of my like productivity, my achiever strength, you know, I'm like, well, I'm still creating something that I can, has a purpose, not just sitting on a cushion. But yes, the creativity part, using different parts of your brain. I think I definitely felt that there were parts of my brain that I hadn't been accessing as much, and
Yeah.
so this year I started the painting, I started the knitting, I'm actually in a jazz singing, jazz
Oh,
ensemble. I'm learning songs that I'm like, "Woo, that's not in my range." So I feel like maybe I'm overachieving, maybe I'm overly optimistic about all the things that I'm adding, but it feels good. It feels good to
yeah.
have an outlet. It's like, James, and Susie Pileggi Pawelski talk about going to their, improv class, and for me, like, making myself go to the jazz ensemble on the weekend, it's like, well, I could be doing something for the kids, or I could be,
Yeah.
there's like a little bit of it's a little bit outside my comfort zone, but then when I get there, I'm really, really glad that I went.
Yeah. I'm loving all of this for a few different reasons. One is it's so different than what we have talked about as other tools to get to calm. I love that it can be you could pick up your painting, you could pick up your knitting and do it for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and
Yeah. Yeah,
it's not something you have to spend hours doing.
exactly.
And I was just down in Mexico doing some talks, and it was interesting. They have different speakers down there on different topics, everything health related. I was obviously on the more well-being, the what they call the inner fitness piece of it. They have different exercise classes, all these different things. One of the most popular things this week that I was just there
Mhm.
was the art class. That
Really?
it was people were flocking to do embossing and different stuff, and I think it was we get
Mm.
so in our head all
Yeah.
day long, and it was like, "Let me just totally disconnect and
Yeah.
tap into the playfulness. We were on a call earlier, Shannon and I, with an HR team. We're doing a large scale project with a bunch of their senior leaders. And Shannon brought up, what about play in this offsite? Because we forget to play as adults. And that's when we can open up so many different areas of our brain that ultimately get us back to that same goal of being more productive, more connected, more profitable, all of that. When we can play, when we can relax ourselves, we can be so much more effective.
That's right. Yeah, it's Barbara Fredrickson, broaden and build. You're
Yeah.
doing something creative and it induces positive emotion, makes you more creative. Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to my kids about painting and like their painting classes, they're learning like color theory and all this advanced stuff. I'm like, in my day, I got like, here's a coloring page.
Yeah.
Have fun with that. So I feel like I'm behind on the painting education. I need some more work on that. But at the moment, it's nice to create something with your hands. It reminds me of the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle
Oh,
Maintenance,
yeah.
you know? I feel like we
Yep.
may be going back to that with the advent of AI, people can actually create something. It makes you feel like, "Hey, I did this thing." So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I just looked at our time, these go so quickly. I'll kind of wrap up what you were saying. I actually love not having the theoretical classes on it and just doing and getting our hands dirty. One of my classes that I remember the most from elementary school, our teacher would come in, he would turn off the lights, he'd put on music, and he'd say, draw to the music and close your eyes. And so we would sit there just drawing to the music. And so we got out of our heads. It wasn't what it looked like. And it was feeling the music and just letting
Hmm.
go. And that is something that all of us are capable of. So, Shannon, give us one final sentence as to why turning on that creativity might help somebody get to a place of greater calm and greater well being.
I think that if you tap into your own instinct and the thing that lights you up, whether it's guitar or ukulele or, embossing, I think that we sometimes get away from our own instincts as to what we want to do because as leaders, we're serving other people or as, a
Mm.
family, we're trying to take care of other people. But I think it gets you back in tune with the somatic, part of you and the intentionality that you're like, "Hey, this is something I actually want to do." Um,
Yeah.
Goal setting theory, what is our approach goal? What do we want to have? So, I think that's one of the reasons why it's helpful.
Shannon Polly, thank you for joining me on What's Possible.
Thanks for having me, Eileen.